It's on the waiting screen. That waiting screen, is that through OBS that you do that? Yeah, I need to make one of those for Twitch. Actually, it's a bit warm for this hoodie. You see the Tyranid Codex is coming out next week? The Tyranid Codex is coming out next week. Yeah, it's going up on pre-order. 6 detachments. That's definitely going to be fine. They're definitely all equally balanced as well. 100%. No. No. As I was saying to the homies in chat, I was like, remember, this is still the same rules team that wrote the Dark Eldar and Admech Codexes. This is still that cycle of books before those people were fired, so be ready for some pain. Oh, 100%. I would say, like, I don't think I was exaggerating when I was saying, like, after the LVO is kind of when things might start looking up. Yep. And it's Chaos Space Marines, right? It's the... Yeah. We low-key live. That's pretty funny. Let me see. We are.
Live then.
You're not. Your voice is gone though.
My voice is gone. Excellent. After all that.
Oh no! Wait, you're back. I think.
My voice is back.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know how you could hear us in the waiting screen, but apparently that's a thing. Sorry, we was just messing around with trying to get audio synced up and stuff, and I must have keyed a setting wrong. Anyway. Oh, Dara's echoing. God damn it. It doesn't matter what we do, man. We just mess it up every time.
I think I was only echoing because I was probably like watching the stream through.
Oh, okay.
Maybe?
Right, well,
I hope so anyway.
Hopefully it'll be sorted. Just always a pleasant clusterfuck here at the Red Path. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to the Red Path. Hopefully, by the time I'm talking, our audio issues are fixed and you can see us and everything else. And hope you're all doing well this Sunday afternoon. Dara, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. All is well on my end. I'm just back from a lovely weekend of glamping in the Wexford Mountains, which has been a very fun and refreshing break away from the internet and all things like that. So, yeah, feeling pretty nice after weekend of trekking through mountains and disengaging with civilization.
Yeah, that'd be, I don't know. I'm not sure that I would necessarily like to do that.
A lot of walking, Jamie.
Oh god, no, yeah, there's no way I'd like to do it. I will have you know though, in my younger days, I used to go on mountain hikes. We climbed Snowdon when I was 16 after my GCSEs. Climbed Ben Nevis when I was 18 after A levels. Done like Helvellyn and Scafell Park and stuff in England, but yeah, that was a long time ago. Okay, alright, I've put on headphones now, so hopefully any echo that I was causing has disappeared as well. For the love of Khorne, let the audio work just once.
And let us know in chat if things have come out okay, basically.
Yeah. Keep bugging us until we get it perfect. Better. Okay, better. Better is basically
that's all we need
perfect.
to hear.
It's probably just like a like a tinnitus scream in everybody's ears, and we.
Yeah. Always a perfect way to ensure that our viewership stays good from the
Yeah.
get-go.
Okay.
Naturally.
All right. So what we're going to do today, as you may have guessed, is we're going to talk about what we would like to see from the upcoming data slate, which is at some point in the first half of September. But Dara, you categorically claimed that it would be September the 14th, and you're going to have to
People call
die
me a
on that
prophet.
hill.
I'm just saying, it might happen. It might happen.
I mean, there's like basically a 1 in 15 chance that is correct. Probably on the higher end, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's reasonable odds.
Yeah.
It's reasonable odds.
Because what they said in the first 2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, within the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, so-
and like they want to make sure that Nova doesn't get caught up in it as well, right?
Right. Okay. And Nova's the first weekend, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's the first weekend of September, as far as I'm
Yeah.
aware. Nova's going to be a shit show.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be so bad.
Yeah.
It's just Main thing is LGT will have the balanced status slate,
Yes.
which is that's all I care about right now.
That is
so.
true. Yeah, that's all that matters. I've got an RTT teams tournament on the 9th, but I'm guessing it won't be available for that. So, in the meantime, we shall wish list and figure out how we could make it better, because we're obviously the pro 40k players.
Of course.
So we're going to start off. We're just going to go through the index cards as they are. We're going to start off at the top. We're going to kind of discuss briefly whether we think they should go up, should go down, stay the same, or if there's any glaring need for a rules or stats change, which is less likely. More, we're going to be focusing on points.
Yep. And obviously in chat, if you wildly agree or disagree, let us know. If you have your own takes, I'll be trying to keep an eye on it anyway, while Jamie is talking about big brain stuff. And leave a like, leave a comment, X, Y, and Z, all the good stuff that helps keep us going. We're almost at 5k, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, and most likely, as you predicted, we will hit 5k whilst all three of us are at the LGT with limited abilities to do anything about it.
And something wild will happen, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'll birth some god-awful live stream at some points. And yeah, we'll see where we go from there. But hey, that's a different stream's problem. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I am actually super looking forward to the LGT, obviously, for all three of us to be
too.
together. But obviously, Josh, Lehman Ross here, and he's in the chat right now. He's gonna. I think you said you're gonna be there, aren't you? I thought he said he bought tickets. And then Luke, I believe.
Yeah, there's quite a few people.
Yeah,
I think.
and then I know last year Victor Schuberg was there, and who else? There was quite a few folks that kind of like knew from online happened to meet. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great time.
I'm really looking forward to it. I think the LGT, I'm hoping, will be even better than the LVO was this year.
I hope so too. Yeah.
And I think just having the holy trinity of you, me, and Jack all in the same place as once, I'm like, what chaos is that going to birth? We'll have to see.
A lot of red armored chaos. With the word red as my really bad segue, let's go on to the Red Angel, and talk about Angron.
God loves all his red angles.
Yes, he does. Alright, Darren. So, Angron is currently pointed at 415 points, and I know you've had some pretty interesting thoughts on why he costs that much. Why don't you just give us a brief overview of that, and then we'll discuss up, down, or the same.
Yeah, I think currently, as it is, so like the way I look at it with Angron, and this is a little bit of a, I guess a weird one, people maybe aren't too happy to kind of hear it whenever I say it, but I think he is undercosted for what he is. And that's kind of simply because, like, if you were to look at Angron in a vacuum, or in probably any other index, other than maybe R1, you would probably say Angron is undercosted, right? But I think that more so than many of our other indexes that are kind of out in the wild at the minute, the world leaders are actually drastically overcosted compared even to other overcosted codexes. Like our basic units, the 8-bound, the Berserkers, X, Y, and Z, they're all very, very overcosted. So Angron doesn't feel undercosted because of that. But I would say if you were to take away all the overcosted elements of our army, if you had 8-bounds in and around the 50 mark, if you had Berserkers at 20 or maybe even lower than that, Angron would feel exceptionally cheap, I think. So personally, I think Angron at 415, for what he does, for what he brings to the army, and the fact that he is in basically almost every single truly competitive World Leaders list, I think he is phenomenally undercosted. I would say, if it was me, I would probably bring him up to 450 before I think he would start be actually reasonable.
I don't wholly agree, but I respect the process. He's definitely not undercosted. Okay, sorry. He's not overcosted. Hold on, I got to get my numbers right.
Think, Jamie. Think.
Yeah, I need to be like a Lord of Change and have a head going forward and a head going back. Okay.
Yeah, we started on like probably the spiciest take, which is like
yeah, it really does kick it off. So I think Angron could afford to go up a little bit, but I also don't necessarily think that he should. It's like a weird position, because I do agree that his position in the army is 100% relying on the cost of everything else, of course. I mean, he is a fulcrum, he is a focal point of the army, he is the mandatory warlord. If you're putting Angron or a model like Angron in an army, you're tending to build a lot of the rest of the army around him to synergize and function well.
Yeah.
So what I don't want to see is Angron goes up so much that the reductions from the rest of the army mean if I want to run the list I'm running, building today, it's going to be the same today as it will in a month's time. I don't want that. We need to get a couple more units, decent units, in our 2,000 point lists. But I can see Angron realistically going up. I know that is the kind of word on the street, the rumour that you heard from the folks at Warhammer World. It is one of those things. Do I think he should go up? No, not necessarily. Do I think he will go up? Yes, probably. For the reasons you said, and that I kind of agree with him being integral. In an Angron list, he has to be a little bit prohibitive. He can't just be an easy take. If you're running Angron, it has to be a list around Angron. You don't just slot him in to a list that would win anyway, sort of thing. So
yeah, it's not like how it was in 9th edition when we got the book, and it was kind of like Angron was like it's definitely a lot more of a choice back then. A lot of people kind of considered him a bad choice, even though I actually thought he was really good back then. But I think at the minute it's not really a choice. If you want to really threaten, a 3-2, 4-1 kind of finish at a GT, which is obviously very, very difficult in the current competitive climate, I think you have to have Angron, because I've said it before a bunch. I think the army is actually costed around Angron, and that's part of why I think that Angron himself is too cheap, because the whole it's like they made Angron cheap to make you want to bring him, and then the rest of the army is very, very expensive. So it kind of comes together as a situation of like, basically, well, I have to bring Angron and then I have to build the army around him. There isn't really, I don't think, a truly viable competitive option at the minute for World Leaders where you don't run Angron. I don't really think so. I think it would be very challenging to do it, and I think it would be quite similar as not running Invocatus in 9th edition. Like, you're actively putting yourself in a worse position, except the meta itself around that is so much more unhealthy than the Invocatus era, because I never ran Invocatus, but the meta was a lot more workable, I would have said. Yeah. So now if you don't take Angron, I'm just like, because when I started playing 10th edition, I wasn't taking Angron, and I was just like not having a good time, straight up not having a good time in my games. So I think you just have to consider the value of a model like that returning to the battlefield possibly multiple times on full wounds. In games like Custodes and Imperial Knights, I found he can be basically a free trade piece, which is like really, really strong. If you do like your tactic of just fully send him in turn 1 and body slam a unit, be it a big knight, be it a brick of wardens, be it a brick of guard, or something like that, as long as he takes something of somewhat significant value out and then comes back later on, you've basically traded out for free, which is like in the Custodes or Knight game where the trades have to be perfect and we don't really have a lot of things that can answer those very durable bricks anyway. Angron can just be a phenomenally useful resource. So in that sense, that's kind of why I feel like he's undercosted. And even at 450, I would still take him. And I've written lists already with my predictive points changes, where Angron is at 450, and generally my current list basically would save 80 points even with Angron going up to 450.
Okay.
So it doesn't get me much. It gets me like
a Jakhals squad.
Yeah, exactly. And this is with the 8-bound swapping to Terminators as well, by the way.
Okay.
If I keep the 8-bound the way they are, I'm actually getting another like 5-man Berserker squad in there, which is fine, you know. But I think Angron going up will be interesting, because if it is the way that I predict, then it will actually open the door for a lot of other viable builds that aren't just the Angron mono builds, which I'll actually be in a lot of favor for, I think.
One issue before we move on that I have is I look at any of my lists. Now, of course, this is in the current meta. And I think, okay, if I had an extra 200 points, which would be a 10% across the board reduction in points. If I had 200 points, I'm getting probably another, basically about 10 Berserkers, assuming they come down in points, right?
Yeah, which I think is a very reasonable assumption.
Yeah. But then I think, okay, in the current meta, 10 extra Berserkers, or a big squad of Jakhals, or another Exalted 8-bound squad and some Spawn, I don't know if that's enough. But of course, I do have to...
It's really hard to tell, I think.
Yeah, because it depends, like, if I go into an Eldar match today, well, maybe not Eldar, let's say Imperial Knights, because there's a chance there. If I gain 10 Berserkers and they lose a baby knight, or they have to downgrade their big knights or something...
Then it's a game, man.
Yes, I think...
Then it's a real game.
So it feels like 200 points isn't much to me, but then I've got to think, okay, if those people that are being my problems at the moment are going up 200 points and losing an asset...
the net results.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's something I've got to train myself to consider whilst we're all chatting right now. But anyone in the chat, think about that as well as we go through these. So
Jack has just realised that Tyranids are on pre-order next. Jack is at an RTT right now, potentially as podiumed, we're not sure. So if you think World Leaders are bad, Jack is running the worst list known to all of Wargaming kind, and he is potentially podiumed with it, so, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I think it's when you consider the net, I think you actually made me really consider that net change when you were talking about other low-tier factions being elevated up, like the Death Guard and things like that. And that's where you could see a lot of kind of negative change towards us, but things like, I mean, controversially, I don't really think Imperial Knights should be nerfed any more than they already have been, but that's when you're playing on the correct terrain, I think. I actually, like, I played them twice in Warhammer World on what I would consider to be a really good terrain layout. Like, the new GW layout is so fun to play on when it's the correct terrain that's used.
Yeah.
And I beat Knights once in 100 points to 26, and then I lost to them like by like 10 points or something.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're quite beatable for us because of the Angron trade factor. If I didn't have Angron, I would struggle so much into Knights, because it's probably, I would say, the only fundamental issue with the rules in our book, which is outside of Angron, we don't have the capacity to take down big tank models.
Well, and that's the thing, we do have that. There are obviously armies that are worse off than us, or in the same boat as us, who don't have an Angron, who don't have, like, Angron is effective for us because of his potential speed and the fact he will one-shot most units in the game. So if you're given a big knight or a couple of Armigers or Magnus or something like that, and you manage to pull that off turn one, you're in the game. But if you're an army, if you're Votan or Admech, and you don't have that option, generally, Knights will still continue to be a problem, I think, for armies like that, and unless those guys need more than points reductions, because looking at some of the units, some of their better units aren't unfairly costed. They lack the punch, quite frankly. There's a lot of units that are good at what they do, but the army as a whole lacks a real, sucker punch kind of unit, which Angron is for us. He's really our only one, and he's keeping us afloat. But anyway, let's talk points. So you think 450 would be fair?
I think for what Angron can do, 450, I would still take him. I think the limit at where I would probably stop considering him as a choice in a list is probably around the 480 mark. 450,
yeah.
I would still take him in pretty much every single list. 480, I would probably stop. So any point between 450 and 480, I would probably be like, okay, this is a consideration.
Do this? Yeah.
450, I honestly still think I would take him in almost every single list. To be honest, because I really like the function of my current lists with him in it. And if the points go the way that I think they're going to go, you know, gaining an extra like small unit is fine by me. I think, really, to be honest. What about you?
Well, I've put 450 in. I just want to apologise if anyone suffers from like flashing lights or epilepsy or anything like that. Every time I type in Excel, it's going to flash the screen, and I apologise. Yeah, you know, because that's us. We don't care. We'll put everyone in a fit. It's the nails. Look, I'm gonna accept the 450 because I do expect him to go up. And 450, like if I was writing a list, if everything was the same but Angron was 450 today, I would still be including him in the list. It just means I've got to, you know,
you got to compromise.
I've got to downgrade some Berserkers or Jakhals or, you know, drop a, you know, Mo or something like that. Okay, so let's move on to Khârn the Betrayer at 95 points.
Oh my god. Fucking Khârn, man.
Yeah.
He is the most undercosted unit in the game. He's more undercosted than a fire prism.
I don't know if I'd go that far because he is still a combat unit. But
True.
I agree. He is undercosted, but he's also like he's got a very specific role.
I was gonna say, right? He works in like a squad of 10 Berserkers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's his jam, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to take into the account like the fact that 10 Berserkers are not a cheap unit.
Yeah. I think it's similar to Angron. If everything else comes down, like Khârn going up to excuse me. Even Khârn today at 115, I'm not saying he should go to 115, but if Khârn was 115 today, I would be, okay, I'm still going to look at him. I don't auto-include him in lists, but I would look at him for the same reason. Now, I don't think he'll go up because the few results we have got haven't included Khârn, so GW just thinks he doesn't exist.
Yeah,
and
but I also, like, I don't think he's very, very cheap for what he is. But I'm also like, is this one of those cases where it's like, just because he's cheap doesn't necessarily mean he should go up? Like, at some point, Khârn has been historically shit for, like, since I started playing the game.
He was amazing in 8th edition. He was amazing in 8th edition.
Look, we all know that you and me have very different opinions about what was good in 8th edition and what was not. And I don't think Khârn was good. 3 Predators coming out of reserve with Khârn.
It's not about the Predators, man. It's anyway. Go on, carry on.
Anyway, let's not fall into that hole. But yeah, like I'm kind of like 95 points. Khârn is like, you know, I'm a man who loves my Ronseal units, and Khârn is Ronseal all over it. It's like, what does he do? He makes Berserkers better. What does he do? He kills things in combat. You're just looking at that. That's all you want, and that's perfect. So you know what? I think Khârn is just brilliant as he is, because like you have to consider the fact that he's not 95 points. He's whatever the cost of what's 10 Berserkers these days, like 210 or something like that, 220, whatever that is. He is that cost, you know, plus his own points, because really you need the 10 Berserkers. And the way that I look at it, it's like, I've got a 10 Berserker unit. I could add in a Mo for 80, or I could add in Khârn for 95. You're always adding in something.
Yeah.
Adding in Khârn feels great in a Berserker unit, and Khârn and 10 Berserkers feels so fun to run. Like, I've had tons of fun running Khârn through things and just having a blast. He's actually doing good now. He really what's the word, like, amplifies the Berserker squad that he's with. He actually makes Berserkers feel really good. Yeah. And I just love him for what he is right now, and I wouldn't want him to change.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I just want to quickly thank Noah Westergaard. He just joined our YouTube membership.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I did see some questions on there. We'll touch on questions here in a little while. We want to dive through some units. Look, I'm going to keep Khârn at 95.
I think that's totally fair. I don't see Khârn changing.
Yeah,
if he gets cheaper, it's going to be so funny, dude.
Yeah.
Like, just I don't think he'll get cheaper though. But
No.
I will laugh so much.
Could
if
you
he
imagine
does.
Khârne at 80 points and like Berserker's down to 200?
That would be dumb, dude.
Yeah, oh,
But it would be great.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So Invocatus 155.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Invocatus is a very, very interesting one. His value is obviously...
It's in the scout. It's in the scout moves.
It is. It is.
He's a fight. Oh, I should be changing the data sheets here. Okay, hold on. Yeah, apologies, everyone. So there's Khârne, and let's go on to Invocatus. So his data sheet is solid. Arguably, I think he's better pure output-wise from 9th edition.
I agree.
Better attacks, having Lance and devastating wounds, or Lance on the Juggernaut at least.
Mm-hmm.
His attachment ability, allowing fall back and charge, fall back and shoot.
Surprisingly, actually, I have found very useful.
Yeah, of course you have,
games.
because it's fucking
in night
terrible.
games, man. No,
okay,
because
alright, yeah, I can see
the 8-bound brick is unlikely to kill a knight, but you can run away and come back in, and you get your charging bonus again. And I found that to be really useful.
I can see that.
And also, like, what I have found with 8-bound, and maybe it's me not really being great at putting them into stuff, but like, a lot of the time I'll like body slam a unit and almost kill it, and then in the next turn I'll have Invo and the boys like just run away and like charge something else, and I'll have like Jakhals or a Spawn or something come in and finish up, the leftovers basically. So I actually, like Sleeper, I actually really like that ability. I didn't think it would come up much, but I've been surprised at how much it has come up.
Yeah, okay.
But I actually also really value Invocatus as just a guy by himself.
Yeah.
And just not joining a unit.
I've used him generally like that. I have had him attached, I think, a couple times, but I like him. I don't feel that I think he's costed pretty fairly right now.
I think so too.
But
the scout move is exceptionally powerful.
In a world
really...
of everything, of bringing us balance, I could see him, I think 140 or 145.
I was going to say 140. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of just a touch down, because he's T6, he's got a 2-up, 4-up, potential 300 pen, but he's still not that tough. Like,
he's also not that easy to kill though, I've found.
Yeah.
I've had him be like quite sticky. Yeah. When he's in cover, he is annoying to dislodge.
But so part of his cost is a one-time use ability for Scout, which is very good. I'm not denying that, but it's one and done, and that's based on player skill.
It also doesn't always come up. Sometimes you're like, I don't want to use the Scout. Yeah.
And also, full back and charge is good. Okay, there are plays for it, but it's something you have to attach him to something, which means you've got a minimum an 8-bound tax in there as well. You're not going to put him with Berserkers realistically. And
actually, the way I prefer to use him, and I was saying this to I think Mark the other day, but I usually have Invo unattached from the 8-bound, but they still run in the same direction. Invo goes in first, weakens the squad, so then the 8-bound get the full reroll buff against them. Because I find that really useful, Yeah. Like, all he has to do is, like, damage it a little bit or whatever, or kill a couple of guys, and then the 8-bound are full wound rerolls against them.
Well,
which feels almost
strength,
like a...
Right?
Yeah, but it feels like almost a more powerful ability, Yeah.
Because
it's it's a bit more niche, and you have to rely on Invo doing the damage, but a lot of the time, as long as you pick your targets well, it will happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's I wouldn't like disagree with him dropping to 145 or 150. I think.
Yeah. I just want to touch on a point here. I think it was Dutch Ninja mentioned about his trouble movement, which is fair. He's obviously lost fly. One thing I predict. So when we get our codex and we get our detachments, we'll probably have Disciples of the Red Angel. We'll probably have the Butcher Horde, and we'll probably get the Fire Riders. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for the Fire Riders, man.
What I'm guessing for Fire Riders is like their detachment rule will either be like army-wide, everything gains deep strike, or everything can fly for a turn, because in their lore, he literally like zooms down on a fire bridge and brings his fucking army with him. Like,
it might be the
skulls, mauler things, all just flying in from fucking heaven.
Could be the Defilers rule, where they can just go over terrain that's like under a certain height.
Yeah, I can see some kind of movement buff for his detachment, whatever that is, maybe incorporated into stratagems as well. But
yeah, they're all going to have something, right?
But yeah. Okay, so let's put him at 145 for a prediction.
I think that I would be surprised at 145. I think
you'd be surprised at that.
I think 150 is probably 145 would be a big surprise.
We're going for what we'd like. All right.
Sure. Okay.
We'll go for 150, Dara. I'll give you that one.
We'll meet in the middle.
Not 1450. All right. So now we go on to the prints. This will be the footprints, who I tried out for the first time last night, and was reasonably surprised or reasonably happy with them. I did run two. It's that list I sent you in Discord. Yes. 2 blobs of jackals and stuff. I lost the game. It was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, but everything performed as it should have done. I just didn't command the army properly. But I thought he was good, but he is so overcosted. Yeah,
I was going to say, the data sheet is pretty solid.
It's banging.
It's just drastically, like, I look at the data sheet, I'm like, I don't really dislike anything here.
Yeah.
But the cost is, like, wildly overcosted. Wildly overcosted, I would say.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he's like 40 points overcosted. I'd like to see the footprints in the kind of high 100s, like 170 to 180.
170, 180 is what I would say, yeah. I think 180 is pretty fair.
Yeah, because that is a huge drop. Like at 180, I think he becomes incredibly competitive because his buff is excellent. Like he has low mobility, but like you can bring him in for like round 3 and round 4, which is basically what happened with me. And he's not super killy. He doesn't feel as killy as previously.
Oh man, yeah, I missed that so much when he had the sword.
I had him with the helm, and he took a real amount of damage to bring down.
I almost feel like the helm is like a baked-in cost for the prince.
Yeah, I can see that because he's obviously the best available bearer of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna put 175.
I think that's very reasonable because when you factor in the cost of the helm as well, he still becomes an expensive unit.
With 200 with the helm, or with like maybe with a glaive or favoured, because a lot of people run him with favoured, and I could see the argument for putting a glaive on one of them as well because death wounds is still not as good as the Mo, but you know.
It's just the Mo with the glaive. It's like probably the most broken unit, but it's whatever.
All right, so we got 175. Let's go on to the winged prince.
This guy is trash. This guy is overcosted and his data sheet is ass. Like, there's nothing good going for this guy.
So, yeah, like, the rerolls, the Oath to Khorne, it's like the old Warlord trait that we used to have. I can't remember.
Except you just die in this one.
And
sure.
The Battle Shock test, like, Battle Shock is just, like, basically...
It's a fucking meme.
It's worthless as morale has been for 5 years.
I
mean, yes, it comes up occasionally. Like morale came up occasionally, but if you're being charged for this, which we are, then it's fucking bullshit. So his data sheet's the same. Obviously, he gets 12-inch fly, but fly is nerfed. I mean, it's not as bad as it could be, but it's still
pretty rough. He has deep strike, which is one thing that is like going for him because target for rapid ingress, which is obviously very very powerful.
Had devastating wounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the devastating wounds thing was just like a hellforged weapon thing, and he drops he's 215 and he dropped to like 170, but with dev wounds as well, I'd be okay with that because then you give him the glaive. You give this guy the glaive because he'll reroll hits and wounds against a target.
Yeah,
and like you pick the knight, you pick Magnus or whatever. You rapid ingress.
He'll do a decent amount of damage.
He should. Like I mean. But I think he should be in a position where he costs more than the footprints. But the 4-up Invul Aura is so damn good, you would have to give this guy something even
He would
better.
need a new ability, basically, because the mobility with how Fly works now, the mobility, especially with how fast we can be naturally, it's just not quite there for me. So I think, hilariously, for probably the first time ever, I would say that the Flying Prince actually has to be a lower in cost than the footprints, which is wild. Okay, but I would say he should be 170 and the footprints should be 175.
Yeah, all right, that's what we got. I've got to mute because I'm about to speak.
Jamie dying over here. Oh, the legendary triple dad sneeze. I like it.
It's always a triple, man. And there's probably more coming because. Yeah.
Meanwhile, you can sign up to our wonderful Discord or Patreon or any of the other wonderful things that the Red Path puts out. So check out the links down below. Help us get to 5k. Like, comment, and subscribe. We're very, very close.
Okay, so
he's recovered.
Well, no, I'm not. It's coming again. So talk us through the Juggernaut
sure.
Lord.
Do
your thing.
So the Juggernaut Lord at the minute is he's in a weird spot at 120, I think, because he's not terrible, I would say, but like he lacks, I think, the oomph that we want from a unit. Like the special sauce, like Invocatus has his scout move, you know, Khârn has his reroll hits and wounds of 1, but the Juggernaut Lord, he gives you the reroll charges, he gives you reroll advances and reroll blood surges, which is nice. Having reroll blood surges as a caveat there almost makes it feel like that if you don't put him with Berserkers, you're missing out on an ability, but then you're also missing out on movement if you don't put him with Eightbound. So he's a little bit of a confused unit, and I think he's kind of the epitome of our army should have Juggernaut Cavalry and this guy should join them, because right now the rules that he has don't work in harmony with either of the two units that he can join. He's losing something for every unit he joins, and personally I just think he doesn't really gel with the army as it is. He feels a little bit overcosted, I would say. He's not terrible, his damage output is not amazing, it's not as good as Invocatus, but that's fair enough. But I just think overall, he's a bit like bran flakes. You know, he just doesn't do anything for me. I look at him and I'm like, you're fine. If you're 100 points, I probably would take you, but you're 120. And you kind of have to factor in that, like, you probably want to put some form of enhancement on him, I would say. And yeah, I think for me, he's just two playing in a book where we have a lot of diverse and interesting HQ choices already.
Yeah, I can see that. I've tried him once or twice. I gave him the Berserker Glaive, which was good.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't affect the number of attacks on the Bladed Horn, but it does improve the damage. So he got like a total of 12 damage, 5 attacks.
Yeah,
the problem
is good.
No death wounds there, of course, which is fair.
Right.
But -1. So like you've really got to like what are you going into where 5 damage -1 is like a good break point? Like
it's confusing.
You don't want to go into Terminators because you're just wasting. You don't, and you know, you're not breaching them either. It's very strange. But the -1 is his biggest weakness in my opinion.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
He I understand it's basically an exalted chainsword, but I think giving it an extra AP as well as an extra damage would be necessary.
Are you telling me that like this boy coming swinging in on the back of a Juggernaut is not going to hit you harder than a Berserker? You know, it's going to kick the crap out of you.
Well, I mean, he is better stats-wise, but it's the weapon itself being only -1, which I know that they want to kind of do that with chain blades, but it's somewhere between a chainsword and an eviscerator. You know, it's mastercraft.
It's two handle bad boy. Like, you know, it should be able to kick the crap.
Like,
but,
he is a lord. He's a lord of Khorne, so he's obviously stronger and more resilient than your average berserker. So much like Khârn,
and according to the sprue, doesn't have the butcher's nails. So.
Yeah, right. So he should be able to handle a two-handed weapon in one hand. Give him an eviscerator, just with the same attacks. Yeah. Anyway, so
what would you? Obviously, you know, data sheet changes agnostic because we're probably not going to get them. What cost, given where he is right now, what cost do you think he needs to be?
He's 120 right now. Bloody Stampede is fine. I just forget it every time I use it. His output is okay if you're going into the rare perfect target, and his attachment rule is fine. It's just like you said, it's mixed up. I would honestly,
it's semi-useful, but
I'm hesitant to put him as low as 100 because he's quite tough. You know, he's 2 up, 4 up, T6, 7 wounds. But what does he do? Like, what's the point in bringing him with other options?
The way I would say it is like, would you take him at 110? Because I wouldn't.
Yeah, I see no reason for him. Like,
but I would take him at 105 or 100. I think.
Yeah, let's do 105 because I think he gets spammable when he gets into the kind of for the toughness. It's like 300.
Yeah, you don't want him. You don't want him like running around with every 5-man Berserker squad, right? Yeah.
So let's go 105. That's a 15-point drop. That is about that's
105. I can see in a unit of 8-bound. Then at that point, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll toss that guy in.
Yeah.
As a damage buffer.
Yeah. Alright.
Yep.
Now on to a unit that needs no introduction, the Master of Executions.
Okay, this guy is fucking tapped. Dude, this guy needs to be chained up in the bottom of a ship somewhere. There is no unit in the history of World Eaters, I reckon, that have ever been as good as the Master of Executions at 80 points.
Yeah.
I will like straight up say, I don't think there's ever been a unit as broken for World Eaters as this guy.
That I can remember, I'm going to agree.
I would say the Red Butchers come close at their peak efficiency. The Red Butchers come close, but even then, I don't think it's a competition. This guy, like, has there ever been a unit that's just been more like, whoa, this is off the rails?
Off the basic data sheet, no, I don't think so. Like, I remember early 8th edition combos with the Dark Apostle and Exalted Champion, full rerolls to hit and stuff like that, but purely on their data sheet, no. I'll agree. And with the access to the glaive, for 80 points is phenomenal. Just bare bones, they're great. If you get, they're just good into a lot of targets because everyone's throwing, or a lot of people are throwing characters in every unit, meta-wise at least.
They're fantastic fighting into the meta the way it is now, and I personally think that it's a mixture of Masters of Executions and Angron is why we have a great game into Custodes.
Don't say that. We don't have a great game into Custodes.
I like straight up.
You're wrong. You're
give me as many Custode players as you want. I will win most of my games against Custodes. 100%.
No, not gonna happen. But look, I would be happy with the Mo right now. Oh, I think my camera's turned off.
I still got your voice though.
You got my voice. Okay. Don't know why that happened. That's a great thing to happen. Alright, I'm just restarting the camera. Yeah, if the Mo went up to there we go, should be back. If the Mo went up to 95 points, I'd still be happy with him.
I think 95 is a bit saucy.
No, I'm not saying he's because obviously then you're not considering running 3 of them, but I think you would still consider the glaive Mo at 95 plus the 25 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
15, right, for glaive?
Yeah.
Because he's 95 with
15?
the glaive, I think.
Okay, alright.
Or is it 25? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Favorite is 25, right?
Yeah.
And glaive is 15, I think.
You know what? I'm going to check.
Either way, I think like 90 points for the Mo, I think is actually quite a fair cost, I would say.
Yeah.
Once you start pushing up past that, you're kind of crossing into dangerous, like, Juggernaut Lord territory, which is probably not a...
Do we think they're actually going to put the Mo up, though? I
don't think they will.
No, I don't think they'll change him at all.
No. I would be really surprised if they did. I just think that, like, he should. You know?
He probably should, but...
Yeah.
Like, he's... Yeah, I don't.
Oh my god, Aurelian in chat says 70 is a fair price for the Mo. I think that's wild. 70 for the Mo?
Look, we're not Eldar here, man, or people, we're never going to get a broken codex with everything wildly undercosted.
Yeah. I think the problem is that there isn't like a unit to sit between the Mo and the Juggernaut Lord, like an on foot Chaos Lord, because it's really hard to, I think, adjust the costs of those two units without there being an intermediate between them. Yeah. I just think it's very hard. So I don't think the Mo is going to go up at all, really, to be honest.
Yeah. How much? Do you know how much Terminator Lords cost, or Don, or any CSM players in the chat? How much does a regular Terminator Lord cost for like Death Guard, CSM?
I want to say 115.
Okay, so they're up
but I might be
with
wrong.
Juggernaut Lord. See, I'd like to see a Terminator Lord in that kind of mid-range as well.
I think
maybe
anything
the
that
Saints.
floats around the 100 mark as like a foot character of some descriptive that isn't Khârn, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people saying 110.
110. Okay, yeah, that
Yeah.
would feel right. But yeah, Khârn is basically a foot lord just with great melee.
Yes,
And,
yeah.
and no, not the same buffs. All right, let's go on to Zerkers.
Okay, this is a big talking point.
Yeah,
I feel
this
like
is the
this is
big
going to
one.
be the spicy one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I think everyone's going to pretty much agree with the fact that Berserkers are undercosted.
What?
I think everyone's going to agree. Or sorry, overcosted.
Yeah,
Overcosted.
like,
That's what I meant
whoa,
to say.
whoa,
That
whoa.
they need to come down. They need to come down. Everyone agrees on that, right? The question is, how much are they? Like, are they overcosted currently? So they're sitting at what, 223 right now, right? 23 model, 230 for 10.
It's 115 for 5, so yeah,
Yeah,
23
230
model,
for 10.
yeah.
So it's kind of a funny one because I think there's so much of the Berserker cost tied up in the Blood Surge move, which is very much a you get the return on Blood Surge depending on how good you are as an opponent and how many mistakes your opponent, or how good you are and how many mistakes your opponent makes. I think.
I just want to snipe in there because I obviously listened to your chat with Mikey from Hellstorm, and where you talked about that, and that's obviously something we've talked about. I've talked about with my local crew and stuff like that. Blood Surge is an amazing ability on paper. I just find it generally terrible in practice. I know a lot of people have had success with it, but for me, it's like I generally when I'm playing in real life, it's different. Like when I play Don on TTS because he full well knows what it is. But when I play in real life, you can bring it up at the start of the game. You can remind someone at the start of the phase, but then they do it, and you're like, okay, so you're now activating my trap card, and I hate that. I don't want to. Yeah. I don't like that type of ability. It's why I didn't like the original heroic intervention strat. I much prefer, even though heroic intervention needs made better, it shouldn't be 2CP and stuff like that. The current one, everyone has it. It's a cool rule. If you forget about heroic intervention, I don't feel bad using it because you've probably used Overwatch on me 3 times in a very much.
I know. I think I totally get where you're coming from, and Surge does become a trap card, and it's like that discussion I had with Mikey on the podcast where it was kind of like, how much do you have to say to someone, before it kind of becomes detrimental to yourself, and it's a very difficult ability, I think, to communicate with your opponent, and I think people, depending on their demeanor, can react badly to it as well, regardless of the situation. But the rule that I've always had with my friends and stuff, and when I'm playing in a tournament, is I will say it in deployment, I will say it in turn 1, I might mention it in turn 2, and after that, it's really on you at that point. Because
I think that's fair.
There's a lot of abilities in the game that, people just forget about, and I really like it as an ability. I know it's a trap card ability, but I think it's really fun, and I really enjoy playing with it, and thinking about the potential that it has. But I think that's part of the reason why people think Berserkers are overcosted, because of that ability, which I think is a very, very strong ability. Like, I think it's probably one of the strongest abilities tied to any data sheet in our book, because we don't really have many strong abilities other than the Mo. But I think then the other problem is that the damage ceiling for Berserkers is quite low, especially relative to where it used to be, right?
Yeah, I meant to do this before the stream today. I wanted to bring up 8th edition Berserkers with Fight Twice, then CSM 9th edition Berserkers, then World Eaters Berserkers Codex, and kind of do like a graph of our damage output or number of attacks. And
I reckon it's probably like a logarithmic decline.
Yeah, exactly, because it has gone down, and I wish I could remember the points for CSM over those periods. For World Eaters, for Berserkers over those periods, because
115 for 5 was actually really common in 8th edition for the Berserkers. They floated around that quite a lot. The lowest they went to, I think, was 95 for 5.
They had double the attacks, if not more, because I think they were still 4 attacks base, and then they had a chainsword on top, and then they had, it's 3 attacks with a chainsword, plus 1 for the charge, but you did that twice, and then you got Hateful Assault later on.
It was wild.
And then you lost the Butcher's Nails on the second activation.
Now, admittedly, I don't know if 8 Berserkers should ever have been reliably killing a full Imperial Knight in combat, because they were. They definitely were, and I'm not sure if that's like. No. But I think the problem is they've gone. I think the 9th edition World Leaders Codex Berserkers was the best feeling for me, where I'm like, this is where these guys should be, and it's a good representation of their damage output. I think. I think right now it's a difficult one because, you know, if they want to make chain weapons in general AP1, it's hard to give Berserkers AP2 and justify it, which I can kind of see their reasoning there. The Eviscerator feels flat, I think, at the minute, which is a little bit of a problem. Could probably do with a buff somewhere in one of the 3 slots. So I think overall Berserkers do need to come down. The question is by how much, and what's the threshold for if you bring them down to a certain amount, do they just get spammed all over the table with Masters of Executions in every squad?
How much are Rubric Marines for a 5-man at the moment?
I want to say for a 5-man it's 110, but I might be wrong about that. Someone in chat who knows Thousand Suns better. They're cheaper than us.
Yeah, I thought they were closer to 100.
They might be. I could just be misremembering.
So I did the numbers, and they have without Magnus buffs and things like that, they have roughly the same damage at 95 for rubrics. 20
rubrics are 95. Yeah. That's very cheap.
Pretty sure. Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, thanks, Aurelian.
So they have roughly, if you give them flamers, they have roughly the same damage output as Berserkers, 5 versus 5, except they're at 12-inch range. It's slightly less, but they're at 12-inch range.
Yeah.
You throw on Magnus or Araman or whatever's given them
or
plus
Cabal
1 to
buffs
wound,
or anything like that.
Any of the stuff there, we could get sustained or lethal, which is fine, but they get plus 1 to wound, reroll wounds if you're on objectives, all these things that catapults them to being far more effective. Now, admittedly, Rubric Marines are obviously undercosted, but if we put Berserkers at 95 and Rubrics at 115, Rubrics are still, if you could take one of, like in your perfect list, you could pick one of those. You're going to take Rubrics at 115 over Berserkers at 95.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think 95 for Berserkers is very cheap.
No, you would, a 12-inch Flamer unit is got so much more utility on a Berserker body than on a power armor body than Berserkers do.
I see your point there, yeah.
But
I also think that rubrics at 115 is still too cheap for
them. Yeah, I was going to say that was what I was about to say. They need to come up to at least 120. I don't know if Berserkers I would love Berserkers at 90-95, but I think 100 is probably more what we can expect.
I think that's what I would say as well. Yeah.
I do think 95 is fairer, but knowing GW, I'm going to predict 100.
Like you're probably looking at a 10 to 15% drop for combat units. I think that's probably what we're going to see. So taking that into account, you could actually be looking at 95 points for 5 Berserkers, at which point that is probably the threshold, I think, where you're just going to see lists that are only Berserkers, right?
Yeah.
Because you'll take...
so I played Don last night, and he ran, 5 by 10 or 6 by 10 Plague Marines.
I've played against that list, My buddy Jay runs that, and it's fucking savage.
Yeah, so Blight, the Fight First guys, a couple of the other guys, and then a bunch of Rhinos. And it was like, I looked at it as like, that's what I want to do with Berserkers. I physically can't do it right now. Like, I don't have the points to do that. Like, if I was to meet him as like in like a more of a sort of like, let's sort of run like an infantry assault list, I'd have at least 10 Berserkers less. And then not to say that Plague Marines are super good, because they're not. Like, he makes
they're pretty good if you build them for combat. They're good. I think
they were decent, and they would be good against Berserkers because of the 2 damage heavy weapons and stuff. But like, I would just be outnumbered. Now, obviously, Plague Marines and Death Guard obviously need a whole bunch of buffs. We're not specialists on that faction. But I would, if Berserkers went to 95 or 100, you would start seeing that kind of list, and I would be here for that shit. But I think 100 is reasonable to expect, and I'd be happy with 100. I'd be happier if it was 90-95.
I think 100 is probably what we're going to see. But I also, if I see 95, I'm not going to be shocked. And again, word on the street is that they're perceived as being very overcosted at the minute. Yeah. So I actually think that I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to drop by a lot more than they probably should.
Oh, dude.
And I think they're probably... I will just say right now, on record, if they end up being like 90 points for 5, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm just going to put that energy out there right now.
That'd be so
the
good.
vibe that I got when I was talking to the people over there, they were just like, they were really hyper-fixated on Berserkers being overcosted,
Right.
despite me kind of saying like, you know, I just think you might be looking at this a little bit too much. But no, they were dialed in on that. So all I'm saying is, don't be shocked if Berserkers drop by a ton. And if they do, my worry is that lists are just going to be Berserker spam, which is like cool for the first like 3 or 4 tournaments, and then I feel like it's just like
I
it's
won't
just a
run
sledgehammer
Berserker
list.
spam. I don't have the back for it anymore. But
I was going to say,
would
dude,
like
even
to
I don't have the back for that.
Yeah, I would like to have some Berserkers in my list that I don't feel bad trading out. Like some 5 mans that can run out. And like, okay, I didn't just lose, you know, like 5% of my army for, you know, 50 points.
Right now, it's like if you lose the 10-man, like, it's just like, oh god, you know?
That was one of my 3 threats, and Angron is currently dead, and I'm just hoping that he comes back.
This is literally the problem with my list.
Jakhals.
But yeah. Yes.
75 points.
I actually think this is pretty on point.
Yeah, I was...
Yeah. I don't think there's too much to say about Jakhals. They're very effective for what they do right now.
They do, yeah. If they make combat, they can do some wounds just by sheer volume and being able to hit that strength 4 and strength 5 on the Skull Smasher.
I really like them at 75, to be honest.
They're kind of really nice. Like,
you
don't feel bad them dying. You kind of sometimes want them to die. With the Feel No Pain, they'll just piss off your opponent enough in many situations. And they do have access to some, like, they probably are some of the best recipients of buffs, like the 4-up invul, 5-up Feel No Pain, lethal hits. Like, they love that shit. They're like, give me more, give me more.
Lethal on Jakhals is a vibe, for sure. Especially with the sustained as well. But honestly, like, I don't think Jakhals should go down. But will they?
Well, just a chat here from Chris Gibbons. I didn't realise they were 20 points more than Cultists.
Cultists... It depends, though, because in some of the books, Cultists are really fucking good. Like, they have Scout in the Death Guard book, which is really good. In the Chaos Space Marine one, I don't actually remember...
They get sticky as well.
I think they're sticky, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they get sticky for CSM.
And they have an invuln in Thousand Suns, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Because why not, you know? But they are very different to cultists, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, cultists, I see what you're saying. They get lethal hits when they kill some of their own guys with the Dark Pact.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. They feel very different because they hit harder than cultists. They're hitting at strength 4, which is actually a very relevant breakpoint.
Yeah.
Because of T4 bodies. They have a good volume of attacks as well. Some of them have AP. You've got the Skull Smasher dude in there as well. They have a Feel No Pain and Sticky, and I think the Feel No Pain going up to 5 adds a lot of value to them as well.
But, you know, just thinking about it and reading the chat here a bit and what the other guys get, I could see them going to 70, assuming other cultists maybe come up 5 points.
Cultists are definitely coming up in CSM because they're like one of the most spammed things at the minute. Yeah.
So, I'm going to put them at 70 points. I don't think... They're not entering broken. The only opportunity would be if if Jakhals come down more than 5 points. So let's say they come down to 65. So it'd be 130 for 20. And if the Foot Demon Prince comes down considerably, and you
are actually going to see the 200 Jackal list then, which I don't know.
Yeah, but I think.
And that's only the extreme version. I think Jakhals at 65 opens up a whole different vibe of spam in general, because you're going to look
come
at
down to 90, then I'm putting them at 70 because in a world where current cultists are 55
55
points,
I think.
If they come up to like 60 65, I'd be fine with them staying at 75. They certainly don't need to come up, but I'd be okay with them going down just a smidgen. 7 points model.
70 feels fine, I think. I'm just quite aware that, like, at the minute, I've never had a problem with Jakhals in how they feel.
Right.
You know, I'm just like, these guys are, it's like you said, they feel great, you know. And then I'm worried that if they drop too much, I'm just like, well, I could run X, or I could run that many points worth of Jakhals, and is the Jackal option just better? Because you have to start wondering at what point do things get... You remember like the days of 8th edition where Deck Guard were just Poxwalker spam with the 5-up Feel No Pain?
Yeah.
We could see that happen if Jackals drop too much, because they just become incredibly hyper efficient.
Yeah.
Especially with no tax, and like you have to have as many Jackals as X, right?
Yeah.
So my big concern is that, right? At what point do we cross that threshold? I think dipping below 70 is where we start to enter into danger territory, where that starts to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so got them at 70. Let's talk Terminators.
This is one's on you. I really hate the Terminators as they currently are, so you lead this one.
Yeah, like I know, like I've bounced between being hype on them and less. Currently, I'm on less hype on them. I think they're fine. They have some issues in that their strength and damage output is fine into infantry and elite infantry, but when you're running, if you're running a block of 10, you're almost 400 points. You need a 400 point unit to be able to severely cripple vehicles, or if not outright kill regular tanks like executioners and stuff, and put half damage at least on a big knight, on a T13 model, for a 400 point combat unit, and they don't.
No, they have the damage problem, I think.
Yeah,
where they don't cross the
10.
damage too.
Strength 10 was amazing in 9th edition. It's fine now if you're running into Marines and they're running just infantry. But and I know you get a couple of chain fists, but they're locked into only having 2 realistic anti-vehicle options with the chain fists on a 400 point unit. They are very tough. 2 up, 4 up, 3 wounds, 6 up, feel no pain. T5 is a great profile, and I love them for that. But then you're forced, okay, I have to deep strike them because otherwise their mobility just isn't quite good enough.
And then you kind of have to rapid ingress them, sort of.
You have to ingress them, and then a block of 10 is quite a big footprint. You're probably vulnerable to some kind of Overwatch.
There's always some type of Overwatch
there's always
that
some
can hit
kind.
you.
So and okay, you lose a model in Overwatch now. They're +1 to hit. Great, but I don't want to. Like, why are we still doing this to World Eaters? Why do we have to fucking suffer to get our buffs?
We got past it with Khârn, and they just shifted the goalpost somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine, but do that shit for every single army. If everyone's getting this, no problem.
I actually really like those rules, the cost benefit kind of rules.
Yeah.
But like, not when it's just one army. It used to be like the chaos, like we used to call them chaos rules.
Yeah, chaos. Yeah.
I don't know. So where do you think like Terminators should be, given that we're not going to see datasheet changes? We're not, and I hate their datasheet ability so much, but that's not going to change.
So 195 currently, definitely, I think they're the same as CSM Terminators. I can't remember what Loyalist Terminators are, but I think
Loyalist Terminators are actually more expensive.
Yeah,
they're quite pricey.
But then they get a lot more.
The chaplain attachments are phenomenal for them.
They actually get attachments. We don't like.
Yeah.
That's another problem with them. We have no way to give them an attachment.
Yes.
That pisses
huge problem for us, I think.
That alone, the attachment absence would probably take about 10 points off the squad. Their data slate, or making their data sheet fairly pointed, would probably take another 10 points off there. I'd put them at 175.
I actually would go lower. I
really?
think.
Yeah. How low would you go though?
I would say I would start considering them at 160 for 5, which I know seems very low, but honestly, I think that's what it would take for me to actually consider them, because I think they have so much going against them, right? Yeah. The speed, the vulnerability to Overwatch from rapid ingress, the lack of attachable characters, and their damage ceiling being quite low.
Yeah.
So I think really for them to be worth considering
anymore. No red butchers for fight twice or for
extra whatever damage. Yeah.
You know what? So what, you reckon 160?
I think 160, because then I'm like 10 is 320 still,
Yeah.
and at 320 I'm like maybe they're worth it.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what? It's hard. I'm trying to think. That's 30 T5 wounds with a 2 up 4 up.
Chris Gibbons just says here they heard someone in the 40k Discord said they heard from GW that abilities will change in this patch. I don't think it's going to happen for World Eaters. Those abilities are going to be Eldar, Knights, and maybe the lower end of the spectrum. We're falling too close to the middle, and realistically, outside of a few things like the Terminators and maybe the Winged Prince, I don't really think our abilities need that drastic of a shift. The problem is, and this is the problem, our index is super honest, apart from the points. Like, the units are actually just like, cool, that's actually a fine unit. It's just a lot of things in the game are very dishonest, they're very overpowered, etc, etc. So, like, and this is a little bit tangential, but, like, if our datasheet abilities change to become in line with the very, very powerful things, our army just becomes part of the problem. Datasheet abilities should be coming back, should be paired back to our level, rather than us trying to catch up with the level that the higher things are at. And really all I think that we need for the most part is points adjustments outside of a few units. But I do think Terminators are one of those ones where they actually need maybe a little bit of a datasheet rewrite, because the point is when you drop Terminators to something like 160 or maybe even lower than that, they start to get a bit pushed, I think, for 5.
I think 160 actually, the more I'm thinking about it as you were talking there, does feel right. Now the second we get a leader that can attach to them, that changes.
Exactly.
Because
yeah.
once you can give them,
Free stratagems is, I think, the typical
free
one.
stratagem would be, or like devastating wound, like tank shock, basically. Because if any Terminator unit's going to get a charge bonus that breaks a wall, it's going to be World Eaters Terminators. So I'm going to put 160. I really like that. I know that's going to blow Warboss's mind, but
I just think
Ron
I don't know.
shows up. Guess who's here? Ron. Yeah, hasn't touched World Eaters.
We allow units of 8 Terminators.
Yeah.
It's a fact, man.
Yeah,
it's a fact.
I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's put them at 160, and with that, with units of 8 Terminators being
the standard. If they can do 7 Plague Marines, they can do 8 for us.
Right. Let's oh yeah, don't even dare. Whatever. 160 for Terminators, baby. Let's go. Alright, let's talk about 8-bound.
I'm going to manifest that energy. Watch this space. Watch Terminators drop to 160. And thank me afterwards, okay?
Alright.
Let's talk about 8-bound.
155 for 9 wounds, 3 up, 5 up, Scout 6.
No, just shut up. Our Ravager's 95 points. Okay. That's like, it's wild to me. You know a Dark Eldar Ravager?
Yeah.
3 Dark Lances. Full rerolls, basically, because of pain tokens. It's 95 points. Right?
Right.
That's like the cost of like 1 and a bit 8-bound. Models.
Okay, yeah, alright. Okay,
it's just wrong.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are... I have a lot of problems with the 8-bound, and I'm running them. Like, on the reg, I'm running them. 6 8-bound in most of my lists, or Exalted 8-bounds. Built-in Scout is good, for sure.
Yeah.
Strong ability. Good
I love it. I've been running them for that reason alone.
But I think, like Invocatus, if you can't always utilize the Scout ability to the maximum benefit, for whatever reason, and there's a variety of reasons that you wouldn't use it or whatever, you just lose so much of their points. Because a lot of their points are tied up in that ability, I think.
Yeah.
You know? And then my next biggest problem with them is, like, their damage ceiling is so low now. Like, I've had 6 8-bound go into an Armiger and not kill it. And that's happened multiple times, you know? Like, they lack strength, they lack AP, and they lack damage. They actually, like, lack across the board. And that just, like, doesn't feel good to me, I think. I don't know.
To me, the more I use them, the more I like them. But what I need to do, what I think that they're kind of pointed for, and they absolutely need to come down. The pointing for them should be not relying on you being a fucking genius playing them. The best play
Yeah, it should be pointed around the average skill level, right?
Because the way to play them right now is to have lots of melee threats that surge up all at once with one unit of 8-bound in the middle, giving everyone reroll rolls. Like, that is what they're for. They're to multiply everything else. But you can't do that because we don't have enough points in the list because fucking 8-bound costs 155 points. So we can't actually do that saturation kind of charge with what would be nice would be a couple, 3 or 4 small squads of berserkers getting that buff. So, their damage, I don't know, their damage is fine. I've had them do more than I expected.
Yeah.
But it also isn't great because...
like, from my perspective, when
6.
Possessed do a similar damage and have dev wounds baked in, just kind of like, okay, I guess. Like, I don't know. Shouldn't our guys like hit harder than Possessed?
You would think. We got 8 fucking demons inside. They're just
exactly. They just have one. Pathetic.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard one to balance though because they are super fast, and I think a lot of their points are tied up in speed. But I just think 155 for 3 is still too much, and I think they are peak example of a unit that has been costed around the fact of Angron being in every list. Because if you think about the oppression of Angron body slamming you in turn 1 alongside X many 8-bound, and I think that's what they're thinking about. And right now it's like 6 8-bound normally, right?
Which is fine for your friendly Garage Hammer games, but you go to a tournament, once you hit round 2, or you've won a game and you're in like equally or better skilled players, the fuck is Angron and all these 8-bound going to be hit in turn 1?
Yeah.
Guardsmen.
Unless you're playing knights.
Unless you're playing knights, yeah. But like in general, but then your opponent will have pre-measured and they'll give you one guy to kill to bait all your units into charge, and then they'll just shoot all this shit down. Like, the Alpha Strike is only ever good if you're playing someone who either can't screen because you're on search and destroy and they don't have champions,
or makes a mistake,
or they're not as good as they can't comprehend that level of 40k as yet. It's their first tournament. They've only played a few games.
They can't comprehend that level of 40k.
Well, we're talking.
I like it.
Beginners,
it's a good one,
man. And nothing against beginners and stuff, but when you play an assault army, you have to assume you're just going to get fucking screamed out, or baited, or what have you. So I want to see him at 100 points.
100?
100 points.
Oh, oh,
100 points. That's 33 points a model and some change.
Oof.
Yeah.
My God.
Fucking fight me. Come on, chat. Tell me how wrong I am because you can go fuck yourselves.
I think that is certainly a take.
Dude, 100? That take is hotter than my armpits right now because it's fucking baking over here.
Nice. Charming. Chat's gonna love that. I would settle for a comfortable 120, I think. Yeah. Ron's on the 120 train as well.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. I know. Me and Ron, same brain. You're sitting in the Age of Sigmar chair from the LVO if you're talking 100 points a model. That's what you're doing. Interesting comment here from Solid Sentinel, actually. Remove Blood Surge and bring Berserkers up to move 8. I actually, as much as I love Blood Surge, the feel bad side of it, I'm kind of like, move 8, I see it.
Yeah, and then it'd be move 10.
Yeah, they can go up to move 16, which is pretty funny.
Which
is a bit fast.
Let me just go on a tangent here. I've been privately thinking about how the fuck to fix 40k, and one of the things is you compare combat to shooting. We both have the same movement. We have access to move, and then we have to perform a skill check, or not a skill check, a dice check, to actually be able to use combat, whereas shooting you don't. Yeah. One thing I would like to see is if you move, you either cannot shoot, or you take a penalty to shoot, like -1, or you lose access to keywords, or something like that. Because at the moment, you shooting is obviously the better part of the game for offensive output. I don't care whether you're a fucking tank, and outside of very specialised units, maybe crisis suits or something, who are literally designed and built with future tech to move and shoot. We're talking the Imperium and Chaos and stuff like that. If you move, take -1 to hit if you're going to shoot, or if you move over half your distance, you can't shoot.
My vibe is like at the core, it is difficult to move in real life and use a weapon at the same time.
That's exactly.
Right?
I don't. If you're a marine, that's like the perfect shot and all this shit, you're still going to be a better shot standing still than you are if you're fucking running, 100-meter dash and trying to hip fire. Like, you're going to take an accuracy penalty.
I think that would be fair. I just don't think it's ever going to happen because the game is built to cater to shooting people and make it as easy as possible for them to engage with the game.
Yeah.
Like, you're already seeing, like, Tau and Votann players complain, especially Votann players complaining about, like, oh, our army doesn't hit hard enough. I'm like, I mean, is that really, like, correct? You're just comparing yourself to, like, Eldar and stuff and being like, how come we don't delete someone as hard as Eldar delete you? It's just like, I don't know, man. Maybe, like, the skill issue is that, like, you've spent your whole time playing a shooting army and you don't actually know how to do target priority because, like, you've had it so easy every time since 8th edition where it's just point and click, pick up whatever you want.
Yeah.
And, like, that's how shooting is in my eyes. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. You look at something, and as long as you haven't, like, drastically, incorrectly identified a target, you're just going to pick it up because guns are so good. Like,
Dara, look, I've got it. I know. I can see what you're heading towards here because we've had this conversation before. What's happened before will happen again, and here's what it is. There's two types of 40k players. Let's do it there. Two types of 40k players. There's the ones that log on and choose easy mode and everything
100%.
else, and then there's people that play combat armies who just go straight to new game plus. Like,
yeah, for real.
Like, fuck it, I don't even know what the controls are. We're playing hard mode.
But it was not that way in 9th, I don't think. 9th was like, the gap was like this.
But we had
now
3
it's like
years
this.
of balance. We had 3 years of balance in 9th. Plus, it was much more of an evolution of 8th. 10th is like they're trying to do like not a hard
thing.
reset, but less of a soft reset. Anyway, come on.
Yeah,
8-bound.
a bit tangential, but
so 120,
it's always good to give out about shooting
100
arms.
was a joke, kind of.
I think 120, man. Like, legit 120.
Yeah, that's
40 points a model feels pretty solid for 8-bound.
Because that's just a bit over a Terminator right now. I'd be okay with that.
My apologies if my mic is picking up Kylo in the background. He must have seen a bird or something.
Alright, Exalted 8-bound at that point. So that's 60... Well, there's 60 points a model.
I know. 1.5 of them is equal to a Dark Eldar Ravager. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And you tell me that shooting is not easier than combat? Okay. Sure, Jan.
So, Exalted 8-bound have a much better data sheet because you get 2 weapon options. No, they do. Look, you get you basically get a sweep and a strike with them. Okay, because it's only damage 2, but I don't mind damage 2 if the points are right. So in a world where these are costed fairly, damage 2 is your strike. You've got quite a few of them. Like, be 8, 12 strikes. They do hit on 3s, but then your sweep hits on 2s. They're a multi-purpose unit. They got the 6 up to a 5 up, feel no pain. They deep strike, which is great. The fullback thing can come up. Like, I've had it come up a few times. It's not the best ability, but it's also not the worst ability. Like,
I think that ability should just happen.
Oh,
just straight up,
no fullback?
No test. It should just happen.
Yeah,
you're paying for the ability, which worked, I would say, 20% of the time.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yep.
The ability should just happen.
Yeah.
Even if the ability just happened, 8-bound would still be overcosted because it's not that powerful actually locking something down in combat. It's just not that tight.
Yeah,
like
that thing will still shoot you if it has guns.
Yeah.
And then other combat, you're in an area where if they've got combat in their army, it will just charge you next turn.
Yeah, like what are you tying down in 8th edition realistically that keeps you safe anymore? Because they decided they need to give shooting armies another leg up where you can shoot into and out of combat no problem, you know?
Yeah.
So like it's not really a big deal, you know? I personally think make that ability just happen. Keep their feel no pain. Bring their fists up to damage 3. Because like, why do you have a weapon that's hitting you at what, strength 15 on the
14,
charge?
15 on the charge,
Yeah, and it's damage 2?
Yeah, I know.
What?
Give it anti-vehicle or something, or...
I don't even think it needs anti-vehicle
yeah.
because it's already winning most vehicles on 3s on the charge.
Well,
you know,
yeah,
actually every vehicle on 3s,
yeah.
basically.
Outside of a Titan that can't be brought into the game.
Well,
Yeah.
I just... Damage 3. Honestly. Damage 3 and I would be like, yeah, they're spicy boys. But, okay, look, we're trying to not talk too much about datasheet changes.
So with
What's
them
the point?
as they are, so if we go to 40 points for a regular 8-bound, these have at least got to be 45 points a model.
I would say 45. Okay, hang on. Steven says 45 points per model as a custodian guard. Where do you see Exalted comparatively? That's a really interesting question, actually.
Okay.
Because custodian guard have a lot of good abilities.
Yeah,
they have characters that,
specifically.
when attached, massively amplify their unit's ability.
And the fact that you don't see more custodian guard is because you have wardens.
Yeah. I would say, like, they're obviously quite different in terms of their targets. Because guard are very good into Space Marines, which Exalted 8-bound kind of are, but have the added ability to go into tanks. But they lack an attachable character that actually makes a meaningful difference to them.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can attach the Jugger boys, but like they're not giving them free fights first.
Yeah.
You also can't do something like double shoot with the Custodes, which you can.
Yeah.
So personally, I think 45 a model is actually pretty solid for 8-bound.
Okay, so what's that? 135? No, 81. Yeah, 135.
Yeah, and that's like assuming that the no fallback stays as it is, which is still like not amazing, to be honest.
It's an ability that doesn't matter.
And you forget it half the time because you know it doesn't matter.
Luckily, the Feel No Pain and Deep Strike does give them some versatility.
The way I've found it, because I ran them for a good while, and it's like if you mess it up and they don't do well, you just lose so much points all at once.
Yeah.
And it's just really annoying how if you attach a character to them, they lose the Deep Strike.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, it's indicative of like, we should just have Juggernaut Cavalry.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Alright, World Eater's
135.
Land Raider. Land Raider.
100 points.
So yeah, it's so annoying. Like I remember saying before that a Land Raider should come down. Or if a Land Raider got Assault Ramp, it'd be amazing, and I'd take 3 of them. A Land Raider now has Assault Ramp, and no.
But at what point does it drop enough to be like takeable but not spammable? Like what is it now? 235? 250?
255.
255.
Yeah.
220 doesn't feel terrible.
No, but I'm still thinking, do I bring it?
I just think it doesn't really... So this is the problem with the Land Raider, right? It's not really a points thing or a data sheet thing. I just don't think that World Eaters need a Land Raider because we are so fast as we
not
are.
Anymore, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they took the need for it away.
I like Land Raiders in Deck Guard. I really like them in Deck Guard.
Well, our army is also moving into 8-bound and Juggernauts, which are things that you don't really need to pay for a Land Raider, or can't pay for a Land Raider to hold.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if they went down like absurdly undercosted, like 200 points would be ridiculously undercosted.
Do you think?
No, maybe not ridiculously. I think it would be efficient.
I think it would be competitively costed, I would say.
200
Where it's kind of
points
like...
would be good, but we're not going to get 200 points. No way. We might get 230 if we were super lucky. They bring the raid down to 230. But I don't think they'll... Maybe take 5 points off is what I think they'll do.
Chris says the shooting is similar in power to a 135-point Havoc squad.
Yeah.
Add to that, a Rhino is 85, so 210, 230-ish seems fair. I think hovering around that low 200 mark, I actually realistically don't think we're actually going to see a decrease in the Land Raider because it'll have to drop across the board.
Yeah.
And there's going to be bigger problems in other indexes with Land Raiders that are not ours, namely Space Marines. If it drops too much, Oath of Moment Land Raiders become quite scary.
Yeah. No, they don't have to drop them all. They don't. That's the point of life.
They don't have to.
Yeah.
But they will.
Well,
they will.
I'm going to put 230 as a preferred points. Because I think 230 is reasonable. I think Marines probably still don't take it at 230 with their other vehicles they have access to. I don't know if we would take it at 230, but it at least becomes
It.
You got
I think
3 of them for under 700 points at that point, which...
if I'm going to be completely honest, I would say at 210, I start considering it in list building.
I think that's dirty cheap. I mean, yeah,
That's because you like the Land Raider. At your core, you like it more than I do.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, let's go 220. Let's go in the middle.
Let's meet in the middle on this one. Jack can tell us if we're wrong.
All right, so let's just quickly do the Predators. I think both of them are perfectly costed right now.
I actually, I kind of agree, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know people will say, but the Fire Prism. The Fire Prism is undercosted.
Yeah.
Predator is like so fucking honest. It's just like you look at it, you want to pat it on the back. You're like, good man.
They do what they should do with the Disruptor getting fixed with the keyword rapid fire on the autocannon. Absolutely perfectly fine. They are costed to the point, in my opinion, for where they should be. I've used them. I've used both types. I've had a lot of fun with them. They've done approximately what they should do. Like sometimes they've overperformed, sometimes they've underperformed. So on average, they've killed just above their points, which is what you want.
Yep.
They offer a lot of like firepower for us. They're tough and they are relatively cheap. Like I don't think they will go up, but even at 135, I still think they'd be pretty much fairly costed. So I'm keeping them at 130 unless you.
100%. I agree with everything you just said there. In a rare show of agreement.
I know, right? This never happens.
Right.
So then we're on to the Defiler, which is an interesting.
Jesus, this fucking bag of tricks.
So I haven't run a Defiler, but I've played against them quite a few. The Death Guard Defiler, quite a few times. I do think they're overcosted.
What are they, like 210 or something?
210, yes, 210. And you get, typically you're going to get a twin las cannon, I think a twin heavy flamer, a combi weapon, and then the claw and the chain scourge thing.
Such a fucking weird unit, dude.
Yeah.
If it was up to me, just put them in Legends.
I'm surprised they didn't.
Controversial. Yeah, I actually am, to be honest.
Just give them a new model. They really need a new model. If it was more like a Mauler Fiend in base size, or something, then it'd still be overpriced. I think like 175 for these guys, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think around the 170 to 180 mark, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what chat's saying as well. 175, 180. So I'm putting them at 175. There we go.
Yeah, let's slap them on that. That seems fine.
Because they are a bit more mobile, being able to go over 4-inch or less terrain, which is a great rule.
Fantastic rule.
It should just be that it should be applied to the Walker keyword everywhere, or maybe not the Walker keyword, but something like it shouldn't be. They should get something else instead of that as their rule. Because some armies get fucking bonkers. Because like it was in your chat with Mikey, this is just a free stratagem. Every unit gets a free stratagem on their date sheet. They get the ability to actually navigate the terrain that everyone else gets for free.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Like they should have something else. But whatever, they're great for tank shock. Good for world eaters because they combat and firepower. Synergize well. They just need to come down about 25-35 points.
I think that's quite fair. Yep, let's call it at that.
Alright, talk about the Forge Fiend.
Forge Fiend, I honestly think is probably spot on where he is right now. 150-ish, right?
150, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really think there's too much to say other than the fact that obviously it's not as good as the Chaos one. That's because the Chaos one is undercosted. 150 for the Ecto Fiends right now feels pretty fine to me, I think. Yeah, I don't really think I'd go about changing him.
At my team's event last weekend, the second Custodes game I had, which was a great game. Guy brought a Chad list though. Like it wasn't the Custodes meta list, so it's not like I 100 or 110 like a meta list, but it was still a lot of fun. But the Plasma Fiend shot into, I think it was their Terminators. Or no, I think their Terminators have 4 wounds, don't they?
They do, yeah.
It wasn't Wardens, and it wasn't Custodian Guard.
Sagittarium?
Maybe Sagittarium, I can't remember. But it was a squad of 10 of them. He shot in and killed 8. Like, Obviously, the
That's pretty
dice
funny.
absolutely
I
favoured
mean,
me
look,
there.
someone rolled up there.
Yeah. So, and, it is
would you
very
take a
much...
Forge Fiend or a Brigand? That's the question in chat.
That's... Everyone has a... There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. It's just where you fall on that side of the fence. I think they're very, very similar.
What is your local meta more? If you're going to go into custodes all day, every day, or a lot of like tough infantry lists, Forge Fiend. If you're going into mech lists, probably the Brigand, or Horde lists. I don't know. Like either of them do fine into Hordes. The Forge Fiend's a fucking cooler model, and you get to run pure World Eaters. But the Brigand is probably marginally better by like, a tiny amount.
A little bit, yeah. I think it's fine at 150. And I think, again, if you are comparing it with the Brigand, it's probably a case of the Brigand being maybe a little bit too cheap.
Oh, yeah, just like Warboss said. The Brigand's absolutely going up. No doubt about it.
I don't think they're going to shoot up in points, though. I think maybe like 5 or 10.
I can see them going up close, maybe not 175, but 160, yeah. I can see 160, 165. Alright, it's yours and mine's favourite unit now, Dara, the Hellbrute.
All you, brother.
Okay. Look, I've used the Hellbrute quite a lot, and maybe this is a bit of bias because I'm fucking so ecstatic that I actually got to use my Hellbrutes as Hellbrutes. I've had genuinely good experiences with the Hellbrute, especially running 3 of them. I know other people have used them and didn't like them. They are slow. I know that's your problem with them, Dara, or one of your problems with them.
I am a man who loves speed.
Yes, you are a speed freak. However, I have not had an issue with them being slow because they just trundle up the board. Like, you have your first wave going in, or if you've got shooting armor, you're shooting, and they're trundling up, and then by the middle of the game, they're just punching the shit out of stuff. And every game I played them in, people don't want to attack them. And unless they've got, like a knight that one-shots them or something like that.
Yeah, they're peak, like, distraction Khârn effects vibes, aren't they? Yeah.
I do think they are still a bit overcosted, but I do love, like, a 2-up save on toughness 9 with 8 wounds. It's just nice. And Frenzy is such a great role. It needs a bit of clarification from GW.
Yeah, like how many times can you do it, right?
Yeah. But, like, my local...
I totally agree with you, though. Like, I see everything that you're saying there, and I don't disagree with any of it. I think their peak distraction Khârn effects unit's probably the best one of those in our book. I just think maybe 20 points too much.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're overcosted, but I would say more like 10, but you know what? I'd be 130 for a Hellbrute.
Shall we meet in the middle once again and say 50?
We're going to say 130.
130, again, it's one of those ones where it's like, I wouldn't put it in every list, but I would always think about one
I'd
for
have 3
every
in
list.
every list. 3 in every 130. I'd want 3 in every list.
That's because you love them, though.
Because they're fucking great now. Like everyone's like, people watch Art of War and stuff like that. No disrespect to them, but come on, guys. The Hellbrute is good. He's genuine. He's a lovely little fella. He sort of like slowly trundles up the board, and he just punches the shit out of someone. Like, what is more World Eaters than that? And
I mean,
he's just shooting off like fucking las cannons while he's going up there. He's not even aiming. He's just boo 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 boo. And then he's like, oh, hello, mate. Like,
and if something happens, it happens,
like,
you know.
Shurikens people, man. Alright, so 130 would be my preferred points, yeah.
Yeah, I think I would start really considering it at 130. Warbuzz is saying it's because we all own 3 Hellbrutes after the Legends problem. That's part of why I'm bitter about it and why I don't like them, because every time I look at them I'm like, think about what you could be and then think about what you are, you piece of shit.
I've got 4 regular Hellbrutes and 3 Legend Hellbrutes, so
Yep.
They just need to give us the second type of Hellbrute so I can run more than 3.
I mean, look, a Berserker Hellbrute is the dream. But anyway, what's
talking
next?
of Berserker Hellbrutes and units that are just fucking amazing, the Heldrake.
Look, straight up, because we're not talking about data sheet changes, point drops cannot save this unit.
Oh yes, they could.
Okay, yeah, sure.
50,
it's like 10
50 points.
Yeah, okay.
Running it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But like, let's be realistic about what's actually going to happen. Is any amount of points changes going to save the Heldrake in September? I would say hard no.
Right, alright, hold on. If this was 100 points for Heldrake, would you consider it? If you had a couple painted, which I don't know if you do.
I have 2, yeah.
Right, you've got 2 painted. 100 points for Heldrake, would you consider it? Not auto-take, would you consider it?
I really don't think so, to be honest, because they're
I'd
so...
auto-take at 100 points for Heldrake.
Really? I just think they have such a tough time moving across the board.
That is, yeah, I'll give you that.
Because they can't move over terrain, and their wingspan is so big.
They do move over terrain. They still.
Well, yeah, but they have to count the diagonal.
Yes,
yeah, which is like not easy for them to do because their wingspan is impressive.
Yeah.
And like they also just have a problem of you know the way the model is like tilted towards one side.
Yeah.
They actually just have the problem of that lower side having a tough time moving over anything, you know, and landing in specific places. So. And then they hit like a wet noodle in combat. Their flamer is okay. The autocannon is actually okay as well now. But like, I just think overall, I don't know.
I think at 100 points I would run them because 20. If you could get advanced and charge with them, you're getting a lot more
that's true. That's
mobility
pretty
out
funny.
of them.
Yeah.
And they will score stuff like engage and behind enemy lines potentially if you've got the advanced and charge.
I just think it's wild that we have to talk about dropping them to like more than 50%.
Yes, I know.
What they currently are.
I don't know. I think 100. You know, I just
210. I think.
They are 215 right now.
Yeah. And like you're talking about like halving their cost, and then it's a consideration.
Yeah.
Which is a damning state of where they are right now.
I expect them to drop to like 160 or 150 and still not get used.
They've like historically hovered in the 160 mark, like through past editions. Yeah.
So I'm going to put 130 though as a preferred because there's no way they drop them to 100.
I just think that like you should be able to charge with them, even if it's just into fly targets. If they start in aircraft mode,
yeah, that's fair.
It's ridiculous that like. In a meta where randomly planes become good again, because it's going to happen at some point in 10th edition, that like the Heldrake has to start in hover in order to interact with the jet fighter.
Yeah,
that's wrong. Like that's just straight up wrong.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, like I don't know.
It's just it's more than points. I agree.
We gotta fill in the spreadsheet, man.
Yeah. Mauler Fiend 175. I haven't used the Mauler Fiend this edition yet, but you have.
Yeah, I think this guy needs to come down to probably... if you consider the Forgefiend at 150, and we're thinking that's pretty good, I think we need to see the Mauler at 140, minimum.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's like, it does the damage of the Forgefiend,
but you've got the charge.
You gotta get there. You gotta cross that skill gap,
probably ingressing or spending a CP for a reroll on a charge or something. Yep. You're investing
and just like, I've gotten them into combat a bunch, and they really don't hit very hard. Like low volume of possibly good damage, because it's like it's not even guaranteed good damage. Yeah,
they should be 3 plus D3 damage.
I agree, fully agree. Because it feels bad if you just like slap into something and with a few attacks that go through, you don't even kill a Terminator potentially. But it's just indicative of the low damage values for combat across the board when you consider. Like, realistically, one of the most powerful combat units in the game, or, you know, in the lore, is Angron, right? He should be the combat dude, and he's got D6 plus 2.
Yeah.
Yet we have Night Guns hitting on Melta 6, so 6 plus D6 damage. Or we have, like, the Harpoon on damage 12 for ranged. And, like, it should be the flip of that. Combat should always do more damage than shooting.
Yes.
Because it's, like, the reward for getting there.
Yeah.
But
I know.
I just think this is peak. You look at the Forgefiend, which has flat damage 3, then you turn to the Mauler Fiend, less attacks, like versus the shots of the Forgefiend, has to get there, and then can actually do less damage.
Yeah.
It's like, and then it not only that, it costs more.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many problems with it currently, and if it dropped to 130, again, I'm considering it in every list.
Alright, I'll put 130. That's, we're opening up a lot of stuff here. Okay, the Rhino.
People are saying in chat as well, like talking about the Mauler Fiend with tank shock. Like, you should never factor the cost of a unit in, assuming that you're going to use a stratagem on it, right?
Yeah.
Because the way CP economy is now, especially for world leaders where you can't regen CP, that CP is normally spent on things like rapid ingress or any of the really good world leader stratagems, like, you know, sticky an objective, reroll the blood dice. Like, that CP is used elsewhere, so the cost of the Mauler Fiend can't factor in the tank shock to proc its ability then on its data sheet. It just doesn't, I don't know, doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I put 130. Let's talk about the Rhino. Personally, it's not much to talk about. I think it needs to come down 5 to 10 to be in line with other Rhinos.
Sure.
Because Rhinos are weirdly costed anywhere from like 75 to 85, and we're on the higher end.
That's pretty funny.
I don't know if anyone in the chat can let us know, but I'm pretty sure like the T-Sons
they were
Rhino
costed
is
based
cheaper.
on the inclusion or omission of a firing deck in the initial index.
Right, yeah.
Probably.
But yeah, I think the World Eater's Rhino, because firing deck is effectively meaningless for us, except for a couple of plasma shots. Great. We don't. It suffers a little bit from the same problem as a Land Raider in that transports are less necessary. They're still useful, but they're less necessary.
I still like a single Rhino in
the
list.
They do have, they're the Overwatch eaters. They'll sit on an objective, go and do your investigate signals. I love a Rhino. A cheeky Rhino is always great, but they're less mandatory. Yeah. So, I'd honestly like them at 75. I think
that's pretty reasonable, to be honest. Yeah.
Because Death Guard Rhinos get Plague Bolters or Plague Combi Bolters. Thousand Suns get Inferno Bolters. Like, we just get Bolters or Combi Weapons. So, alright. Spawn at 65.
Spicy boys.
I like them at 65. Like, I wouldn't be upset if they went to 60. At 70, assuming all the other changes, I could see them going to 60 or 70 for some random ass reason.
Because
they're
Spawn,
fucking
right?
Spawn.
Who knows what way it's going to go?
Yeah.
They could drop to 30, for all we know.
Yeah.
I like them at 60, I think, because then it's like at least you're visualizing it like 30 a model, and I hate when it's like a 2 model unit and they're like 65. It just messes with my brain. Yeah, I think 60 is fine for Spawn, especially if Jakhals go down. I think Spawn need to be in a competitive region with the Jakhals for some reason. It's kind of how it works in my brain. But yeah, I think Spawn at 60 is reasonable, considering they were 25 a model in 9th, and now they're like
slightly better.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Thanks, Storm of Blood, for letting us know. CSM Rhino is 85, like World Eaters. Death Guard is 80. T-Sons is 75.
Man, T-Sons.
And Loyalist is 85. So, I imagine they probably make all of them 80 points, is what they'll probably do.
Yeah, meet in the middle.
Yeah. So I'll change that to 80 because that's more realistic.
Sure.
Alright, and we finally get to the Lord of Skulls, one of the most egregiously overcosted units in the Codex.
460? 450? Less again?
No, not less than that. I'm thinking. I like 475. Once we get to 475, I'm like, okay, I've got the happiness factor because he's 525. He's easily 50 points overcosted. But he does run the risk of once you get to like 450, oh my god, you could get 3 of these. You're back to 3 of them with Angron, and you've still got chaff units. So, but he is also, he does need a little bit of a data sheet buff. But I think I'd say like 465 would be just on the cusp of you consider taking one, but that's probably it.
It's really the question of the toss up of am I bringing the Chaos or am I allying in a Knight? What's the cost benefit analysis kind of scheme there? Obviously the Chaos is the blood dice manipulation, which is a really, really powerful ability, especially if you're running Angron. We don't need to get into that. The Knights can offer a higher range damage output. They can offer pretty good combat as well. It's an interesting one, I think. I would say I'd like to see the Chaos around 475, 460. Anywhere between 460 to 475, I think.
I'm going to put 465. Because I think that feels about right,
Can you imagine if we get all these points right?
It'd be crazy.
We gotta save this. Post it somewhere.
I'm just doing some Excel stuff right now because I want to see. Right, so if you take one of every unit from the Codex, as it is today, you spend 2,270 points. With the adjustments we made, it goes down to 1935. So
you can take a list of one of everything.
Yes. Yeah,
I mean,
you could truly Highlander it. Yeah,
that is awesome. Cool.
And you'd actually be able to get a second unit of spawn in there just for shits and giggles.
Provided the spawn don't arbitrarily go off in a completely different tangent to the rest of the army in terms of cost. So, I think we called it pretty. I think we actually were quite fair across the board for a lot of those, and I actually won't be shocked if we're reasonably accurate within like a 5 or 10 point differential for most units.
We just got a 14.75% point decrease, so right there between 10 and 20%.
Which is, I think, on the money for combat.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I do like these points. It certainly propels stuff like Berserkers, the Eightbound and Exalted Eightbound, the Hellbrute, Terminators especially would be huge winners if we got into this kind of point range.
Yeah, I think dropping them to 160, they become quite interesting, and I think I actually like it because it does detach them from them or 8-bound.
Yes.
Right? The way that we've done these points, I think actually they're just different now, which I really like because I hate that at the minute it's one or the other, right?
Yeah.
But that's how it is for me. And I'm not a big fan of that.
36 8-bound incoming. You know what? I would like the 8-bound list where it's just 6x6 8-bound. I want that to be a thing because it's not like it doesn't win every game.
No, it's a true gatekeeper list.
Yeah, everyone or most World Eaters players have got somewhere between 15 and 40 fucking 8-bound models right now.
Do they? I have 6.
Really? That's all you got?
Well, I mean, I have my possess, but like actual 8-bound models.
Okay, because half of mine are possessed, which I converted into 8-bound.
Yeah.
So you know,
and officially, GW didn't throw me out of Warhammer World for using them, so you can use them.
So I'd like people to have the option to run 8-bound spam lists without it being the only way to run the army. And I think with these kind of point charts, you could do an 8-bound spam. You could definitely do like a Jakhals with the Prince list. You could bring the Lord of Skulls and Angron together effectively. You could run Hellbrutes and Mauler Fiends and like do a Demon Engine list. I don't know where the top of the pile ends up, but I think
it opens up a lot of diversity.
Yes.
I think, and the diversity is really close already.
Yeah,
in my opinion, I just think it's being a bit gate-capped at the minute with the fact that Angron's an auto-include.
Yeah.
Once that kind of changes with these adjustments, I think the gates really open up to accommodate a lot of different builds, which is quite exciting, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Alright, I'm going to briefly scan through the chat, unless you've been
now is the time for Q&A if you want to hit them. Obviously, super chats get priority as per, but yeah, if you want questions answered, we'll do like 5-10 minutes, and then good to go.
Yeah.
Ron, big from Ron. If points are basically this, I would be so happy to get back to playing World Leaders. I would love for Ron to get back to World Leaders as well. Yes. It's like my homie, you know. Put you back in the Age of Sigmar chair where you belong, Jamie. I really wouldn't be surprised. And then I think we have to consider the net, like you talked about at the start, of, you know, things at the top coming down. Like Loki, I think if we get these points changes and Custodes go up in points, we slap the bananas out of the Custodes. You know, it's just not even a competition.
Really good question here from Noah. Rules question for World Eaters: with +1 strength on charge and tank shock, do you get the extra dice? No, because
it's just the data sheet.
Tank shock is in the charge phase, and the +1 strength happens in the fight phase.
That makes sense.
If you made a charge move in the fight phase, gain +1 strength and +1 attack, whereas tank shock occurs in the charge phase after you end a charge move. So, you play it, I think, whenever you want, but you do it when you've made a charge move.
Will we share the Google sheet? Yeah, we'll put it in Discord. If you're not in the Discord, the link is pinned to the top since the old list is not working. Any changes wanted or predicted for enhancements? It's a bit of a tougher one. I'd like to see Favor of the Khorne come down like to 20 instead of 25, but I would say that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, yeah, there's not really any changes I'd like to see. Like, they're a bit vanilla. It's a shame that we only got one weapon as a fucking relic, man.
Yeah,
Which I understand, but come on, like, if any army's going to get 3 of its 4 relics be fucking weapons, it should be us. But I get, like, Favour of the Khorne is great. I just wish they'd get rid of the heroic Battle Lust or change it.
God, yeah, I forgot that exists.
So I've used it
so
once
bad.
and it just didn't come up.
Yeah.
The second you say, oh yeah, I'm kitted out for heroic interventions with all my Berserker Mo squads, okay, I'm never going to end within 6 inches of you or make a charge move. So,
yeah.
you know, I'd like to see that be a weapon option. All right, there you go. The Google sheet, I'll pin it in. I'll put it in Discord a little bit later.
Who knows what channel we'll put that in?
Oh, what a legend! So
hey, thanks
Noah
for the
gifted a membership. Thank you very much, Peter Rovanemy. I hope I got your name right. Please say thank you to Noah. That's awesome. That's crazy good.
Do we
dealing
think
with
once
Necrons.
Oh, go on.
So dealing with Necrons. What do we, I haven't played Necrons yet. I know Jack just played Necrons. But he's obviously not on the stream. Have you played him again?
Yeah, like, we're pretty well positioned to deal with Necrons because, as Jack alluded to in the latest Whack Weekly on YouTube, we're actually like uniquely positioned to just body slam them with the volume of AP-1, which they just hate a lot. So we can actually just get through them, and they don't really have a whole bunch of answers to Angron outside of a little bit of casino guns. So I would say, like, Necrons is very much, it's a test of player skill versus player skill rather than like overpowered versus underpowered book. Obviously Catan are a little bit of a struggle, and like I think one thing that we are probably going to see, one of the few rules changes, is that Catan are probably not going to be able to take enhancements because they just shouldn't be able to. But yeah, I think the Necron game is actually pretty okay. You just have to pick your trade fights incredibly well. And whatever you put into the Murder Bucket squad, they need to be able to kill them.
From what I've heard, this is Jack talking about and reading elsewhere. You get the Lich Guard blob, and then you get Warrior blobs, and they're essentially the problems. Obviously the Catan as well, but they're a different kind of problem. My internal plan for dealing with Necrons, should I have to face them, is to try and kill everything else, run around those, and just try and balance out primaries and stuff, because if I've killed everything else, those guys have got to sit on objectives which I can kite away from them, and then whatever shooting I've got in my list, because I typically have some shooting, whatever isn't going to immediately regenerate back, I'm going to try and kill. And then once, if I can keep the points where I'm just a foot ahead in the points, if I have to fight the thing that won't die, I'll do it. If not, fuck them. I'm not saying that's a winning strategy. That's my plan, which probably isn't a winning strategy. But I just want to quickly thank and say welcome to Chris Gibbons as well. Just became a Berserker.
Hell yeah. Does that mean they get access to
patron benefits? Yes. So
so
Chris, anyone who's a Berserker or above on YouTube, make sure you say hi to us and let us know in Discord, because you'll get access to either the hobby-specific clinic where Dara will basically help you out massively with your hobby if you want it, or competitive focus where we will talk about competitive stuff if that's more your jam. If you're a top-tier patron or YouTube support, you get both. But yeah, just make sure you let us know who you are.
Join today.
Yeah. But let's look at some more questions. That's dealing with Necrons. What do you do? The blood, it'd be nice to get blood crushers, Davey, but right now we don't have them. Make Battle Lust not the worst enhancement in the game. Absolutely agree.
I like this one from C Baker M. Do you think World Leaders get more units? Eightbound and Exalted get merged into one? Yes, because they were meant to be one the first time. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
You look at that kid, and I still can't tell the difference between which one is which.
That is true. Yeah, I
big,
could definitely
big
see
true.
that.
Big true. 100%. That is like going to happen And it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be so funny because GW are just going to be like, there was never 2.
So
there was only 1.
So we can run 3 to 6 of either of those units based on parts in the it's based on the things on the models, right? Buy 2 kits of 8-bound or Exalted 8-bound, and try and build a squad of 6 8-bound, where there's only enough parts to make 4 regular 8-bound because you get 2 sergeants. But an 8-bound sergeant must run lacerators or a heavy chain glaive.
Yeah.
So you get 2 sergeants. So you basically have to run a sergeant in there with lacerators, pretend it's eviscerators. Because I believe the arms for the Exalted 8-bound, you see what I mean?
I see what you mean.
So you basically have to build an Exalted 8-bound instructions kit, but arm it and put the head on for a regular 8. It's fucking stupid. Anyway.
And then there's me just like pouring the glue into my bits box and jamming the torso in and seeing what comes out. But yeah. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Tivadar, for someone who's had a tough time being interested in 40k. It has been a rough go. It's going to be a very incremental and slow, and we've still got a long and tough path ahead of us, I'm afraid, because we're about to hit Codex releases.
But hey, you just got to find the fun in the game. Yes. Don't listen too much to what people are saying online, even us. Find your own fun in the game, because I've been having a blast. You've been having a pretty good time too, right?
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah. And I know Jack is having an outstanding time.
Yeah.
I just think...
finally got back into it.
Yeah. You have to remember that, like, you're not going to be playing on the top tables in every single tournament game.
Yeah.
You have a lot of fun in the mid. I've been hanging out in the mid tables pretty recently. People there are chill, having a good time, playing whatever armies they want. Doesn't feel that different to 9th edition. I would say my enjoyment at tournaments has not gone down since 9th edition. So, yeah, just vibe.
Okay, Ron has been playing Necrons. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, Ron's Necrons are funny. He's got some good converted ones he's been sending me.
Chris is Entropic on disc. Entropic is your Discord name. Gotcha. We'll touch base after a while. Ryan says the Land Raider's been an auto take. I mean, I respect it. I don't know. It's not for me, but I respect it. It's not a terrible unit. Necrons are strong. Just kill the solos. Then the support and warriors need to stay on point. Yep, that's kind of iterating. I reiterated that. Steve and Burton has played into Necrons. He used the Blood Crusher combo for Lichguard. That's a great.
Oh yeah, just body slam them with mortal wounds. Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie Hobby Tips, you're goddamn right.
Look, it comes across once in a blue moon.
Rin's got a problem. Rin likes the demon toes.
I hate the demon toes.
Yeah, it's so awful.
I remember when the 30k guys came out, the 30k box, and you had such a big problem with those Marines having like the toe grooves. It was so funny.
I want to see that kit bash for your Mo, Noah. And
hell yeah.
Welcome Seabaker M as another Berserker. Again, make sure you let us know in Discord
if you want
who you
hobby.
are, and we'll get, because when you join through YouTube, it doesn't automatically put you in the group. Patreon it does, but YouTube doesn't, because
YouTube we have to add you manually. So just make sure you either DM one of us or tag us in Discord or whatever, and we'll get you sorted into whichever one you want. But thank you so much.
And then the things I'd look out for are Zandrek, Plasmonster, Immortal Block, so Necron tips.
Yeah.
Storm of Blood is playing Khorne Demons at Nova this weekend.
Oh, brave. So brave. I respect it, but so brave.
It is. Khorne Demons are tasty, man. I love them. Everything except the Bloodletters, I think, are really well-rounded data sheets. Okay, so Noah's posted his thing in finished project.
Nice.
Alright, how do I clean my stove to get grease out of it?
What's your favourite tip for that? It's a topical one.
You get a decent cleaning product and you just superheat the fucker.
Oh, you heat the oven? Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, burn
That's
everything
wild.
out. Yeah, why would you not burn the stuff out?
I don't think you're meant to heat some of those products.
I don't care.
Okay.
You open it, then you stick your head in there. I mean, that's a fucking free.
The Red
hole,
Path
man.
does not is not liable to oven cleaning issues
Honestly,
that come up.
I just I take the racks out and then I fucking dust out all the burnt bits that I've caused, and then just use whatever product we've got in the closet.
There's like this
It's
really
not
good one
fucking
that you can
rocket
get in
science.
Ireland. I can't remember what it is, but it stinks really bad. I pretty much use a respirator when I'm using it, but like it's the good shit, man. But like in the apartment, we were like, all right, cool. We're gonna lay this down. No one uses the oven for 4 days afterwards, and it stays open at all times.
Yeah.
But it was the good shit. So
Well, there we go. Oh, here we got. Let's get one more question here. Rin, how would you guys deal with Cryptothor blobs? I don't know. I presume the Juggernaut mortal wounds on the charge is probably a good answer for that. I don't know.
it can be. It can force them to take casualties in strange places. Generally, Mo is okay at doing it as well if you send him in with the glaive, but just volume them. You know, pop off sustained with Khârn and the squad going in, and they will eventually just fail enough saves for them not to come back. But yeah, look, I think realistically we just have to consider that Crypto Thralls are not going to be a thing in the meta in 2 weeks' time, so I wouldn't stress.
Yeah. Okay. I think that kind of wraps up. That's a 2-hour stream, man.
Jeez.
Yeah. We just fixed World Eaters.
Yep.
And really want to do a massive shout out and thanks to our new supporters, members, YouTube members. Like I said, make sure you hit us up in Discord. Give me a couple hours. I've got to do some family stuff, but if the other guys aren't around, I can get you hooked up once I get back online. But I think we've just basically saved the world, haven't we?
I reckon so. Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job. I reckon we've called it. I would say I'm like pretty confident about how we've called this. I think.
Yeah, I think we'll be pretty damn close for the most part. Anyway, there's going to be some weird outlier, like Khârn goes up to 350 points or something. But you know, other than that, it's GW, man. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. If you are not a member of our Discord, please come and join. Links below. Consider supporting us elsewhere and everything else. But mostly, we really like to see everyone in the Discord so we can hang out and chat and just bullshit and share our... Well, everyone else can share their hobby work. I don't do that. But yeah. Until the next one, folks, stay tuned and then stay... God, I've forgotten my own exit line.
He's thrown it.
Dara,
He's thrown it.
Out. I've bottled it.
Oh my god. I can't believe you've done this. All right, everyone. Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.
Oh god. What a nightmare.